Am I the butthole for asking my girlfriend and her sister to cover up? I, male, 26, have decided to work on my flexibility and mobility due to my injuries from playing soccer in high school/college. My girlfriend of 2 years recommended I try yoga. She does yoga 3 times a week and is incredibly flexible and agile. She told me she would talk to her sister as she's a personal trainer. I agreed. My girlfriend, myself, and her younger sister as the teacher have been doing yoga twice a week at my house for the last 3 weeks. I feel fantastic and really feel that it has been helping me. Yesterday, my mother called me asking me if I was still going to give her the freezer I no longer used. I said yes and told her to come get it or I would take it to her the next day. The freezer is in my garage where we do yoga. I usually do it shirtless and my girlfriend and her sister are in sports bra and sweats. In the middle of our yoga session I get a notification that someone was at my front door. It was my mom and dad. I headed to the door while putting on a shirt but I asked my girlfriend and her sister to put on a top also. My girlfriend gave me daggers for eyes and her sister gave me a confused "who the hell are you" look. I said please because my parents were coming in. I let my parents in and when I come back, they still are in their sports bras. My parents greet them and leave shortly after. My girlfriend's sister ends up leaving before we finish the session and told me that I am no longer her client because she's the teacher and she felt I disrespected her. I was confused and asked my girlfriend what she meant. She said, "Dude, she has big boobs. She gets crapped on like that all the time. You need to apologize like now." "I'll let it go but you're a dick." I told her I will clear things up with her sister but I will no apologize because I didn't mean it that way. My girlfriend doesn't believe me and thinks I was trying to police her and her sister. I did start to think about it and her sister is a good person and I'm thinking I did overstep the boundaries. I don't feel I did. You're the butthole. Who gives a crap if your parents see your girlfriend and her sister in sports bras? Why was this a big deal to you? Info. Greater than I didn't mean it that way. How_did_ you mean it, exactly? Take your time, and think real hard before answering. Is everyone skipping over the fact that he put on a shirt also? He didn't single the girls out and he only said it was for a few minutes until his parents leave. No one is sexualizing anything here. If so then he wouldn't have put on a shirt and only told them to put one on. It's more of a respect thing, than a sexualizing thing and people in the comments seems to have failed to realize that. I am in fact a female, 21 and can see the whole picture. Am I the butthole for leaving my son's wedding after he denied his stepmom a motherson dance? My son Jordan is 27. His stepmom Natalie came into his life when he was 16. His mom had passed away when he was 13. Jordan never really considered Natalie as his mom. He refused to let her get close and shut down every attempt to have a close relationship. He even moved in with his aunt months after Natalie and I got married. As years went by, they started reconciling and seeing each other more often. He invited us to his wedding which took place days ago. We got there and the atmosphere was great, until later when I found out that Jordan had denied Natalie a motherson dance and instead chose his aunt to dance with him. Natalie told me this minutes later and I couldn't help feel irritated and quite upset. I decided to get up and leave and we both left. I got calls from my family after they saw me leave. And Jordan called later and I told him why I did it. He got mad and said it was his wedding and that his aunt is basically a mother to him and said that Natalie shouldn't expect special treatment. I said it's not special treatment but a tradition. Besides that he hurt her feelings for no reason other than for the sake of being malicious. He got offended and accused me of ruining his day and causing a scene. Now the family sided with him and said I shouldn't have left no matter what. You're the butthole. Your wife has never been his mother and he has every right to not have a mother/son dance with her. I strongly suspect this isn't the first time you've chosen your wife over your son and is probably why he moved in with his aunt. If you want any kind of relationship with your son going forward, I very much recommend both you and your wife apologize for throwing a tantrum at his wedding. You're the butthole. She was never a mother figure to your son. In fact, he showed you exactly how he felt about her when he moved out once you moved her into his home. He was kind enough to invite you and your wife to his wedding, but your wife had zero right to demand to be treated, in any capacity, as the mother of the groom. She is not a replacement mother to him and your attempts to force that issue will cost you your son, if he hasn't already reached that point with your terrible behavior at his wedding. Thankfully, he had his aunt, who genuinely loves and cares for him and was willing to support him when you decided that your new wife was more important to you than your son. Am I the butthole for getting annoyed with my GF for changing my last name to hers at a wedding for a joke? GF and I are heading to a wedding next month. It's a couple she knows getting married. I've met them once or twice. I don't know anyone else at this wedding. The other day, her friend called to check if he should also change my name on the guest plan, at which point she admitted to me that, as a joke, she had usurped my last name as her last name, meaning it would be visible this way to other guests on the name tags at the table, and perhaps on other things. I was immediately pissed off with her, and said I didn't think it was funny, and she shouldn't have done it. She was indignant and upset, thought it was a funny joke, that I was overreacting, etc. Am I the butthole here? See, I'm aware that it could be funny, if you know your partner likes those jokes. We joke with each other about taking each other's names when we're married, her joking that I should take hers, etc. But for me, this feels like a big overstep. For one thing, it's childish. I would be embarrassed for her friends and other guests to presume we are married, only to find out it's a dumb joke, and also for her friends to think we're not taking their wedding seriously. But also it feels like a power move. She knows that me taking her name would represent a victory for her, and so the joke feels less playful and more a competitive jibe at my expense. I have to put up with others believing I'm someone who took my wife's name and abandoned my own. No offense to anyone who chooses this, but my name is a part of my identity, and I dislike what being thought to have changed it puts across about me. She grudgingly accepts my point of view, but in general feels more upset at having been told off, and that her naughty playful side is what people like about her, and that I'm at fault for trying to repress it and being uptight. I just feel it's crossing a boundary. Update, lot of thoughts here, feeling blessed for all the balanced and constructive feedback I'm getting. Just to clarify, as I think my word choice has rubbed some people the wrong way, I have absolutely no problem with my GF keeping her name if we married. Personally, giving up on my name goes against my values, not because I'm a closet misogynist, but simply because I'm a person who values their identity. My GF knows this, and still chose to make our joke public with her friends, whom I don't know. Okay, have at. You're the butthole. I have to put up with others believing I'm someone who took my wife's name and abandoned my own. Like women have been expected to do since forever. You're the butthole. Literally no one will care or ask about your last names. Also, you should let her know you expect her to take your last name but you wouldn't do the same for her. Because masculinity is fragile as ever. You're the butthole. I don't know anyone else at this wedding. Unless you two make a scene or steal the show or anything, nobody is going to notice that you have her last name, much less remember you. You're the butthole. Normally I'd say that if someone tells you something they did was a joke in order to blow you off, you should tell them it wasn't funny and it's not a free pass for their behavior. Hard however here, though. See, I'm aware that it could be funny, if you know your partner likes those jokes. We joke with each other about taking each other's names when we're married, her joking that I should take hers. You've admitted this is a running joke between the two of you. She took it a bit further than you'd expected and liked, sure, but your response is disproportionate at best and wildly childish at worst. She took an inside joke the two of you had and goofed with it, and you feel like it's crossing some major boundary? I think your comment about if you were to take her name it would be a victory for her is pretty telling here. She's been thinking the stuff about your names was a lighthearted joke and maybe a way to have this conversation with you. You seem to have been acting like it was a joke covering a threat. Like haha what a ridiculous thought, but really that's never ever happening ever. The wedding is for people she knows that you're not close with, so your comment about being concerned the couple getting married will think you're not taking their wedding seriously rings pretty hollow and feels like a reaching attempt to justify your discomfort and anger. You need to take a good long look at why this is upsetting you so much. And I think you need to take a moment and consider your expectations for any future spouse you have. Would you be alright if they decided not to abandon their name and identity for yours? Or do you just expect that they would? This whole thing smacks of you being controlling. Am I the butthole for leaving a birthday party because I couldn't eat my food inside? My friend group had a surprise party for one of our friends last night. Kim offered to host the party at her house and make the food for it. The rest of us would just show up right after getting off work to decorate and set up. Kim is vegan, which is fine and dandy. The only problem is I have a soy allergy. Kim knows about this. I never expect her to go out of her way to alter what she makes for my sake. There's just an agreement between us that it's not very often I can eat what she makes because she uses a lot of soy-based condiments and substitutes. However, since this was a party taking place after work and was supposed to last a while, I asked Kim if she could hold off on certain legumes and the like in at least one thing she makes so I could eat while at the party. She said she would try. For my part, I packed myself an extra lunch to keep in a cooler throughout the day. It didn't consist of any meat, but there were eggs and items made with mayo or yogurt. I intended to eat it before the party started while decorating, but I wasn't hungry at that point. Once the party started, I did munch on some cut up vegetables, but they weren't cutting it and I got really hungry. Kim had made 2 things of mashed potatoes, but she couldn't remember which bowl had been made with soy milk and which had been made with almond milk. I went out to my car and brought my pack inside so I could eat something. Kim came over to me and said she could smell the mayo and told me to eat in my car, that she was fine that I wasn't eating what she had made, but I knew she has a vegan household and doesn't allow non-vegan foods in. Mind you, it's January, nighttime, and cold as hell outside. I wasn't going to argue with her because it was her house and didn't want to ruin the party by addressing the issue right there, but I also didn't want to have to speed eat while sitting in my car or make frequent trips outside just to snack, so I said goodbye to our friend whose birthday it was and left. A couple hours later I started getting a bunch of texts asking why I had left so early in the night. I said it was because I was hungry, but some of our friends kept pushing because they had seen me come inside with my pack after saying I was grabbing food, so I was honest with them that it was because Kim told me to go eat in my car. Some of our friends are split now and think Kim should have been willing to be flexible since it was at night and really cold outside, and others are siding with her. Kim is just mad and thinks I started drama on purpose. Am I the butthole for leaving after she told me to eat in my car? Not the butthole, and she is one of the reasons that vegans have such a bad rep. It's not rocket science to prepare at least one dish that you can eat and to remember which dish that was. You know. Put a post-it on it. Put a purple spoon. Something. Or, you know, make everything with almond milk instead of soy milk for one night. Not the butthole. I understand not wanting non-vegan foods in her home, but Kim isn't a good host or a good friend. You remained tactful and tried to save face for Kim, but she shot herself in the foot by brushing you off without a second thought. Not the butthole. She, the vegan who wants you to eat outside because she wants her rules followed, can't be bothered to remember which bowl has soy? I would have left too. Am I the butthole for serving my family food from the trash? For context, my sister and I grew up relatively poor. When I was 6, our mom took a promotion and moved 3 hours away. We found out in our adult life, she had been hoarding her money and giving our alcoholic father a small allowance to raise us. With his addiction problems, it left us minimal money for essentials. By the time I was 16, we were technically on our own and was ransacking dumpsters to feed myself and my sister. I'm now in my late 30s, have a successful career and live quite comfortably. My sister is also well off now. My wife and I have a great relationship. I've worked to stop some of my old habits from my upbringing. Some of my penny pinching techniques, my wife graciously ignores and lets me save our money where I can. However, there's one issue: we always can't find a compromise. I can't handle when food is thrown out. Our daughter, 12, wanted chickens last year. That ended up being a good idea, since our table scraps would go to them instead of being wasted to the trash. For the record, I hate when my wife shops or Costco. She buys too much for our family, which creates a lot of waste. I've asked her to at least donate what we don't eat, or give it to me and I can drop it off to a homeless camp near my job. She promised to just buy less quantity, but that didn't last because she doesn't like grocery shopping more than once a week. Last week I came home and found a sealed pack of lettuce, 1 whole cucumber, an entire loaf of bread, and potatoes in the trash can outside. The lettuce was expired, but looked fine. The bread was also expired, but had no mold. The potatoes had eyes, but weren't green or rotten yet. I went inside and started on dinner. I grilled chicken, which was the only item not from the trash. I made a salad and added the cucumber, used the bread to make croutons. And finally, I made mashed potatoes. We all sat down to eat. My wife mentioned how great the food was. I told her it was what she had thrown out earlier that day. She was completely mortified and grossed out. I told her I washed everything off before cooking it, but she said that didn't matter. My point was, if the food was good enough for us to eat, it should have not been thrown out. At bare minimum, she could have given it to our daughter to take to the chickens. She argued back, that I should have taken it from the trash and to the chickens, not to our table. She was irritated with me, fearing we all would have food poisoning or something. But none of us got sick from the food. She said regardless, it was wrong for me to prove a point in that manner and borderline abuse to serve the family food from the trash. I don't really see what I did wrong. There are starving people in this world, and for us to throw out perfectly fine food just doesn't sit right with me. Am I the butthole? You're the butthole. You need to find ways for you to heal from your childhood trauma without digging food out of the trash. Just because you were okay this time doesn't mean that wasn't a bad decision, especially feeding it to your family without their consent. You're the butthole. She is right. There is so much bacteria in a trash can, you can quit well poison your family. Just because it looks good and tastes good, doesn't mean it is. If it was laying around in the kitchen, past 8, that would be fine, but it was already in the trash. Am I the butthole for refusing to turn my home office back into a bedroom for my daughter? 2 years ago our daughter moved out to go live with her boyfriend. Just after she moved out I started working for a different company that allowed working from home, so I turned my daughter's bedroom into a home office. Half of my job is talking to clients on Zoom, so I needed a quiet place in the house. A week ago our daughter announced that she is moving back because her boyfriend got a job abroad and she doesn't want to go with him. Me and my wife both agreed that she can move back. We have a spare room in our house that we used to use as a guest bedroom, but we haven't had any overnight guests in years, so we just decided that she could move in there. On Wednesday she moved back in, and since then she's been constantly nagging us to get her old bedroom back because it's bigger and is on a separate floor, so there's more privacy. We told her that I need my office, but now she somehow managed to get my wife on her side and they're both nagging me. I told them point blank that I'm not giving up my office. And now they're treating me like I'm the enemy. So am I the butthole? Edit. Since so many people keep asking why I don't use the guest room as the office, I considered using the guest room as the office before I even turned her old bedroom into one, but it doesn't work because it's on the same floor as the other kids' rooms and the living room, so even behind closed doors you can hear them yelling and playing. Not the butthole. Are you supposed to just keep this full bedroom untouched and unused for the rest of your lives? She's an adult. She moved out of your house. You can use whatever room in that house for whatever you want. That includes an office for you since you work from home. You offered her the guest room to use as her own. If she doesn't like it, then she can find her own house. For someone not paying any rent and being welcomed back home with open arms, she sure is entitled. Not the butthole. You can't indefinitely keep that room unused for the rest of your life in case she bounces back. Furthermore, you need your office for your work. Finally, she's not paying rent as far as I know while staying under your roof. Essentially, if she's not happy with the free housing, she can get an apartment. Not the butthole. She's an adult. She's lucky you agreed to have her move back in at all. She should not be expecting you to redesign your work and your home around her at this stage of her life. If you haven't already, you should set some clear expectations around her moving in with you, including 1. How long does she expect to stay? 2. Will she be paying rent? 3. Will she be contributing to utilities? 4. Will she be doing her own laundry? If not, will she take turns doing laundry for the family on a rotating basis? 5. Will she be buying her own groceries or contributing to the costs of household groceries? 6. Will she be cooking her own meals or sharing rotating responsibilities for preparing meals? 7. Will she have overnight guests? 8. How will she be contributing to household chores, dishes, cleaning, garbage, yard work? This may seem like a lot, but given her attitude about the bedroom, I'm guessing you'll be surprised about what her expectations are versus yours. Edit. Added one more. Am I the butthole for having a complete meltdown when husband gifted me a brand new gaming system? So I want to start off with this present economy is hard as frick. Pre-pandemic we were able to live off a full-time and part-time on our own. Now I can't even afford my half of the rent. We've been living off credit cards for a while now and we always pay the minimum. We are paying off multiple medical bills from during the pandemic. We are drowning in debt, to be honest. Which brings me to the day I came home from work. I've been driving off the gas light for 2 days straight. I can't even afford gas right now, and my husband took my car the night prior to go buy some milk, and the next morning that gas light was still on. I've never been the type of expect things without asking, but I haven't asked him in a while for gas, so I don't know if he realized I needed gas. But anyways, I came home and saw a brand new game on the kitchen table. The funny thing is I always comment I can't wait to be able to afford a new gaming system. I would love to play that game, but I know that in the future I hope we can buy it. So my priorities are focused on making sure the house is good. I was so upset about a $60 game and I told my husband, why would you throw $60 on a game I can't even play right now? I'm literally driving off the gas light and you bought a video game? I automatically saw the change in energy and he was visibly upset. He said he would return it. I told him that money can go towards groceries, please. After hold my tears back from that. Then I walk into the bedroom and I just started crying. Fully crying. Like eyes are red, I'm about to pass out. I saw a brand new boxed PS5 system on our bed. I ran back to the kitchen and said, not just $60 but $600 when you're oblivious to the finances in the house? We are in so much debt. Why? And again, husband was just silent and upset with me. After explaining that I was heartbroken that he would go buy a gaming system without telling me, then put gas in my car that transports our child everywhere, he said he would return it tomorrow. What upsets me is I'm the person who does the budgeting in the house. The doctor's appointments. The making sure things are straight, so I'm really stressed almost all the time. And I'm also a full-time student while working a full-time job and a parent to a toddler. Husband works full-time also and takes over when I need to do homework. Am I the butthole for getting upset for my husband trying to surprise me with a brand new PS5 when I can't even afford gas or groceries right now? I'm the person who does the budgeting in the house. Info. So does he know the state of the budget? Are you communicating with him about current expenses and debt? You can't expect him to make good decisions without the info to do so. Not the butthole spending $660 on luxury items without consulting your partner when your credit cards are maxed out and yours cars are running on fumes is irresponsible. Everyone deserves a treat every now and then, regardless of their circumstances. We're all human, but a new gaming system and games? Yeah, no. I was thinking more like going out to dinner or splurging for your favorite dessert, but a gaming system isn't a treat, it's frivolous. Not the butthole. Include him more on the budgeting, so he is more aware of how dear the situation is. Make a long-term plan for like 1 to 2 years and estimate the bank account status and debts. It really helps to put things into perspective and avoids wasting money now that you need in half a year for a travel, medical examination, study, etc. There's a lot of I can't afford my rent and I can't afford gas and groceries combined with I haven't asked him for money in a while, so I don't know if he realizes I need it here. So I'm going to guess y'all have mostly separate finances with a shared account for rent/household/family expenses? That's the only way I can see y'all living in credit card debt and your husband having money available to supplement if you asked and you not knowing he bought you gifts. In which case, I'd have to say you're the butthole for not letting him know the full financial situation and that it needs adjusted, and then being upset he used what he thought was his available money from his account to get you a thing. Communication is important, and it seems like you've been hiding financial strain from him instead of communicating that money isn't going as far as it used to. Am I the butthole for calling out my brother for stealing my name? My brother, 29, just had a baby the other day and he gave him my middle name. He kept it a big secret from us until several days after the child's birth. But told everyone else, and we found out through Facebook. My, 31, middle name is the same as my father's and is the first name of my grandfather. It's special to me, because I worked at the grocery store my grandfather and father owned and ran. The three of us have always been close. Sharing a name with them means a lot to me, and I have always said my firstborn is going to be given the name. My brother is aware of this because last year my wife was pregnant and we had discussed with my family what we were going to name it. Sadly, we lost the baby. My wife and I are clearly upset. Last year was really tough and this is just salt in the wound. My family, I guess understandably, won't tell me what they truly think. My wife's family was shocked. I texted him about it after finding out what he named the child. He immediately went into attack mode, and started attacking my wife. Am I the butthole for being upset at my brother and calling him out? Advice for moving past this would be greatly appreciated, because we are at a loss. I'm going to go against the flow here and say not the butthole. He purposefully didn't tell you or talk to you about it. Sure, as other commenters have said, he could also have a special connection to the name. It's his brother, so they have the same father/grandfather. However, the normal thing to do is communicate. He is the a-hole for not talking to you about it and discussing it with you, especially because that is what you named your child. Yes, your child passed, but that was still your child's name. How many of the people saying YT would be okay with having a kid, naming it, loving it, and then losing that kid, just to have their sibling use that special name for their baby? A year later? That's crazy. OP. There's nothing you can do to change what has been done. All you can control is yourself and how you move on from this. I'd suggest writing him a letter telling your brother that the name was already given to your baby and it hurts you he used the same name and hid it from you. Then you can either go LC or you can be happy he has a kid himself and learn to love that the name is still continuing on, even if not in the way you imagined. Finally, while you cannot own a baby name, it's common courtesy to not do stuff like this. Just like you shouldn't name your kid Diarrhea or Putin's butt cheek, but you can. Just because you can does not mean you should. And there's a million names in the word, and he easily could have picked a different one that also had value, or incorporated the initials or your dad's/grandfather's middle names or something. They purposely didn't tell you because they knew you would be upset. When you found out, eventually, who would have guessed, they went on the offense. They know what they did. They know they were wrong. You know you are not the butthole. If this was not a big deal, they would have told you ahead of time. Honestly, I'm going unpopular opinion and not the butthole. OP lost a baby and during that had made it clear that they would use that name. If it wasn't for this then OP would be TA. If Op's brother was going to use that name then he should at least have talked to OP about it first. I'm not saying he needed to change his mind but the loss of a baby is hard and he owed him that much consideration. Hiding it made the matter worse. Op's annoyance is understandable, it is also understandable to call his brother out on this. Yes, OP can still use the name but pointing out that his brother was a bit of an doesn't make OP the My advice is to just ignore it, name your kid what you would anyway.